All right, guys, welcome back to our annual Know It Before You Go presentation. Just to start off, we're going to give you a little bit of an introduction, introduce ourselves, and kind of let you know what RCEA is and what we do. I also do want to provide the caveat that while this is our annual Know Before You Go, we are redirectioning this a little bit just due to time constraints to make it a more comprehensive educational thing about the first few semesters of the fall of college. So that is considered the red zone. This is the zone in which students are at the highest rates for sexual violence. So with this, we want to extend it to be more than just a know before you go, but understanding all of the risks of sexual violence that college students do encounter, and being able to know about resources and know about, going into the unfortunate red zone. So, for starters, rape counselors of East Alabama, our primary purpose is to serve victims of sexual assault, sexual violence, and their friends and families members who may need, services. We are free, we are confidential, and we provide 24-hour services. So our services include Lee, Tallapoosa, Macon, Russell, Chambers, and we just recently actually added in Randolph counties. Our office is located in Auburn, Alabama, which is Lee County. But we do service all those, surrounding counties that we just went over. We provide services to anyone and everyone. We welcome survivors of all genders, races, religions, incomes, languages, abilities, ethnicities, and sexual orientations. So to start off, I was going to do a little bit of an introduction of kind of our people and give you a heads up on who's going to be presenting today. So my name is Faith Namshev. I am the ARP Counseling and Outreach Coordinator. I have my email attached below, and I also have Vicki and Amanda's email. If you have any interest in getting more information after this, looking to volunteer with us, any questions, you can reach out to any of those emails. My role with the organization is I do a lot of virtual events, and I also provide free counseling to our victims. I am an LCSW, so I am able to provide free counseling to victims that we see, which is an awesome service we are grateful to have. Today, presenting with me is going to be Cinque Butts. He is one of our MSW interns. Josie Conway, she works with community outreach and also is a weekend victim advocate. And Caroline Travers. She does fundraising coordinating, and she also is a victim advocate. Not presenting today, but part of our team, we have Amanda, who is our coordinator of victim services, Carly Reed, another weekend victim advocate, Shannon Morgan, she does prevention education, and then our executive director, Vicki Deering. So to start off with, we just kind of want to talk about numbers. I think that these numbers are really important because they show you the prevalency of this issue. And it's very easy to say, stuff like that doesn't happen around here, or this is a quote unquote good city. I think it's really important to see that no matter how good the city is, this crime happens, right? Especially in places where there's a high population of college students, that puts even more risk factors in place. So looking at 2022 to 2023, we had a total of 122 survivors that we served. And I do want to say, just because we served 122 people does not mean that's the amount of people who experienced sexual violence. There are probably a lot of people who did and, didn't want to receive our services or didn't know about our services. So this is probably just a small estimate of how many people actually experienced sexual violence during these years in our counties. One thing I wanted to note was looking at, college age individuals. So we looked at anyone who said they were in college or anyone between the ages of 18 to 22. That was about 42, right? So looking at that, that's about a third of our victims that we saw in those 2 years were college age or current college students. So I think that's really important. And that's why we like to do these presentations as you're going into your first year of school. It's really, really important to kind of have this information. Now, looking at 2024, this data was collected through August. We have had 55 individuals seek our services, and 22 of those are individuals who were between the college age or identified as college. So that's close to 50%, not quite, a little bit less, but have been at college age or current students. So It's important to see these numbers. I'm going to talk a little bit about services we do provide. Those numbers we just saw, they've received one of these services 24/7 medical advocacy. We go with individuals to the hospital to get rape kits done to make sure, physically everything's okay after an assault. This can include, actual physical injuries. This can include, them wanting to get a morning after pill, prophylactics, STI, STD testing, all that stuff. We also help with criminal justice advocacy. We'll go to the court systems with them. We'll go to law enforcement stations when we can, help them through that process. We offer crisis counseling, and that also goes along with our hotline, our 24/7 hotline, like in the moment needed crisis counseling with one of our advocates or through the phone that's available 24 hours a day. Providing information referrals to community resources, trying to get individuals in touch with those other organizations who may have the resources they need, like housing, domestic violence services, whatever that may be. We also provide support groups, art and exercise therapy groups, and actual counseling, which is what I do. So that's going to be more long-term, mental health counseling. Looking at, before you go specifically, this is one of our outreach and educational programs. We like to do this every year for incoming freshmen or first-year freshmen because there's a lot of new experiences that happen when you go to college. A lot more, access to drinking, alcohol, to drugs, to, a lot more freedom per se. So we want to kind of do an educational point about what this may look like, drinking, sexual assault, consent, relationships, and more. So our goal is to have students educated and prepared for what you're walking into. With you being soon to be college students or first semester college students. So having, an idea of who can I reach out to if something like this happens to me or a friend? What are the steps to take? How many hours do I have that I can still get a rape kit done in the state of Alabama? All that stuff. So with this too, since it is virtual, if you were interested in having an informational packet specific to your university and your area, please send us something on one of those emails and we can get that to you with your respective, college and everything. So that is our Know Before You Go, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the rest of our presentations.
Hi, I'm Josie Conway with Rape Counselors of East Alabama, and today I will be talking about sexual assault along with the Alabama and Georgia legal and medical process regarding sexual assault. So, what is sexual assault? Sexual assault, rape, and sexual abuse all have different legal definitions, but in general, they are forms of violence in which there is sexual contact without consent of at least one party. Anyone can be a victim, no matter their age, sexual orientation, or gender. And sexual assault occurs in 1 to 4 women nationally and 1 in 71 people nationally. So, for college statistics, women aged 18 to 24 are at an elevated risk of sexual violence because sexual assault is more prevalent at college and college campuses compared to other crimes and geographical locations. Now, among undergrad students, a little over 1/4 of female students and almost 7% of male students experience rape or sexual assault throughout physical force or a form of violence in their time at college. There has been almost a 20% increase of rapes in the US from 2013 to 2018, but according to RAIN, only 10% of rapes go reported to the police. So the number is probably more high than 20%. We can only go off of 20% based off of the numbers that are reported. Now, for forensic exam informations, forensic exams, also known as a rape kit or a SANE kit, which stands for Sexual Assault Nurse Examination Kit, is when DNA is collected from your person, so things such as your body, your clothes, and other personal belongings that were with you during the assault. You do not have to report the crime to have an exam done, but this process gives you the chance to safely store evidence if in case you decide to report this to police at a later time. If you're able to, try to avoid activities that could potentially damage evidence, such as bathing, showering, using the bathroom, changing your clothes, combing your hair, cleaning up your private area, brushing your teeth, using mouthwash, flossing, eating. All of these things can diminish the DNA evidence if any was left behind. For Alabama, rape is a Class A felony, and there are no statute of limitations in the state of Alabama, which means no matter how long ago a rape was committed, it is reportable and it can be carried out through the judicial system and investigations. In the state of Alabama, you have 72 hours after an assault to get the kit completed. And there is a Jane Doe option, which is where the kit is stored anonymously within the hospital. And they'll keep it for a certain amount of days, just in case you decide you do want to press charges or go through with an investigation. The hospital will turn it over to the police for you. The morning after pill and STD related preventative medications are offered during your time at the exam. They are typically offered at the end, and these are all completely free. The whole exam is free. They don't even require insurance. So it's very victim friendly in the sense that the victim does not have to pay anything in order to get one of these kits done. Now, in the state of Georgia, you can receive medical care for sexual assault without reporting the assault to law enforcement unless you are 15 or under. If you are 15 or under and you go to get a kit done, it has to be reported to law enforcement. You also are able to get the kit in Georgia 5 days after you were assaulted rather than 3, such as in Alabama. So you have 120 hours in Georgia versus 72 in Alabama. So thank you so much for listening to this presentation. I hope you all learned something. Please stay safe and please feel free to contact our office at any time if you ever need anything. Thank you.
All right, y'all. So we're going to talk about some bystander intervention. Okay. So what is a bystander? So a bystander is really anyone who observes violence or witnesses violent situations. So violent situations could be some harmful behaviors that could escalate to violence or harm, assault, or behaviors leading up to an assault. So bystander intervention. So although a bystander is not directly involved, they do have the choice to intervene, speak up, or do something, anything to intervene. Someone who is present and witness to what is happening is potentially in the position to discourage, prevent, or interrupt an incident. So the bystander effect. Basically, the bystander effect happens when the presence of others discourages an individual from intervening in an emergency situation, against a bully, or during an assault or other crime. The greater the number of bystanders, the less likely it is for any of them to provide help to a person in distress. People are more likely to take action in a crisis when there are few or no other witnesses present. So basically, what this is saying is that people are more likely to help others in distress whenever there are less people around. So here's a real life example. In Richmond, California, on October 24th, 2009, more than 20 people witnessed the brutal assault of a 15-year-old high school student after a dance. Only one bystander told his sister about what he had seen, and she called the police, even though she wasn't physically present. So here's an example of the bystander effect because the guy who had seen it didn't do anything because there was a lot of people watching, but the sister did intervene, and she was not part of that effect because there was no people watching her. So there's 3 barriers to bystanders, which is personal, social, and general. So let's talk about the first one, which is personal. So this person may be an introvert and not feel comfortable speaking up, and may feel embarrassed. So their barriers may be that, they think, I don't know what to do or what to say. I feel out of my comfort zone. I typically am pretty introverted. How do I even approach them? my shyness is compelling me to stay out of it. So just kind of being scared to say anything because they're a little intimidated by the social pressure. Okay. So let's talk about the social barrier. Some individuals may feel a sense of anxiety about how peers may react or perceive their actions in a negative light if they stand up to an assault. So, some barriers would sound like, I don't want my friends to be mad at me. I feel like my friend would want me to stay out of their business. And I want this person to like me, therefore I won't stand up to them. So just the social pressure that comes with standing up for others. Okay. So the general barriers, if someone doesn't really know what they're looking at, they may assume someone else does, and that person can help if necessary. So some barriers would sound like, this is none of my business, or I don't want to cause a scene. I'm sure someone else will step in, so I don't have to. And basically, this is just thinking like, okay, well, maybe I don't know the whole situation. Maybe I don't know the whole story, so I'm not going to get involved. I don't know everything. I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to get involved. So, how to be an active bystander? So, to do this, you want to be someone that doesn't tolerate violence or threats, hold people accountable, even your friends, and don't engage in harmful behaviors yourself. Okay. How to safely intervene. Always trust your gut. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, the 3 Ds of bystander intervention. The 3 Ds would be direct, distract, and delegate. Okay, so let's talk about direct. Talk directly to the person in trouble. Ask if they are okay. So the person in trouble being the victim. Ask if they're okay. Pretend to be their friend to get them away. Can I borrow your phone outside? Come with me to get another drink. Come to the bathroom with me. And talking directly to the victim and not to the perpetrator. All right, distract. So create a distraction. You can do this by spilling a drink, going to use the bathroom, say their car's being towed, the police are coming to break up the party, anything that you can do to kind of get the perpetrator kind of distracted from the victim. Okay, delegate. There is power in numbers. So find an authority for the situation. You can find a bouncer, host, security, or another friend. Basically just finding someone who is kind of authoritative or having a big group. Okay. What to do after an assault? After an assault, you should receive medical attention or report the assault, and definitely get support from peers or family or whoever that may be, a therapist. But those are some of your options. What to do when someone discloses an assault. So the first thing you want to do is you want to tell them that you believe them. Say, I believe you. It took a lot of courage to tell me about this. And try not to doubt their story, and make sure to remind them that they are not to blame. So you could just by saying something like, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything to deserve this. Another thing you can do is give help, but let them decide. So lay out their options for them, but let them be the one to pick out which option's best for them. Be patient, and obviously don't go around telling others about this person's assault. So now we're going to talk about some dating violence. Okay. So what is dating violence? It's a pattern of assaultive and controlling behaviors that one person uses against another in order to gain or maintain power and control in the relationship. So the abuser intentionally behaves in ways that could cause fear, degradation, and humiliation to control their partner. So some forms of this can be physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional and psychological abuse. So emotional abuse is yelling, name calling, bullying, isolating you from your family and friends and saying you deserve the abuse or are to blame for it. And then, typically they'll give gifts to make up for the abuse or making promises to change. And as you can see, that's definitely very emotionally abusive. So sexual abuse or rape is forcing you to do any sexual act that you do not want to do, or doing something sexual when you're not able to consent, such as whenever you've been drinking, or if you're sleeping, or you're under the influence of drugs. So the last one would be physical abuse, which involves, it could be anything like hitting, shoving, kicking, biting, throwing objects, choking, or any other aggressive contact. I feel like most people are pretty aware about what kind of constitutes as physical abuse. All right, how common is dating violence? So about 1 in 3 high school students will experience physical or sexual violence from a dating partner. Most people experience dating violence for the first time before age 25. Women between the ages 18 to 24 experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence. An estimated 20 to 25% of female college students will experience attempted or completed rape before graduation, and those are the only ones who self-disclose. So those are the only people that report it. Let's see, nearly half, about 43% of all college women and 1/3, 28% of college men report having experienced either abuse or controlling behaviors in a dating relationship. Who can experience dating violence? Anyone. Both females and males can be victims and perpetrators of dating violence. Victims and abusers come from all social and economic backgrounds, faith communities, and racial and ethnic backgrounds. Abuse also occurs in same-sex relationships. So, it really can happen to anyone. So here are some warning signs of dating violence. We got rape, isolation, manipulation, let's see, committing any physical violence such as hitting, pushing, or slapping you, telling you that you owe them sex in exchange for taking you out on a date, acting overly jealous, including constantly accusing you of cheating, being extremely controlling, such as telling you what to wear, forbidding you from seeing friends and family, or demanding you check your phone, email, and social media. Another one would be constantly checking in with you and getting angry if you don't check back in with him or her. Putting you down, including your appearance, intelligence, and activities, refusing to take responsibility for their own actions, apologizing for abuse, and promising to change over and over again. Having a quick temper, so you never know what you will do or say that may cause a problem. The last one would probably be not allowing you to end the relationship or making you feel guilty for leaving. All right, let's talk about digital abuse. I feel like this one's very prominent in this day and age. So digital abuse is the type of abuse that uses technology, especially texting or social media. Digital abuse is more common among younger adults, but it can happen to anyone who uses technology, such as smartphones or computers, iPads, tablets, whatever. Some examples of digital abuse would be repeated unwanted calls or texts, harassment on social media, pressure to send nudes or private pictures, using text or social media to check up on you, insult you, or control whom you can see or be friends with. Demanding your passwords to social media sites and maybe your email, demanding that you reply right away to texts, emails, and calls. In a healthy relationship, both partners respect relationship boundaries. You do not have to send any photos that make you uncomfortable. And once you send a revealing photo, you have no control over who sees it. The other person can forward it or show it to others and all that kind of stuff. So just beware. And I think that's going to do it.
Hi, I'm Josie Conway, and I'm with the Rape Counselors of East Alabama. I work as a victims advocate and the community outreach coordinator. Today, we will be talking about drug facilitated sexual assault in college, which is also known as DFSA. So first, we're going to go into a little bit about who we are, what we do. So RCEA, Rape Counselors of East Alabama, is a 24/7 free and confidential service to victims and victims' friends and family of sexual assault. We do medical, criminal, and legal advocacy. So we'll go to the hospital with the victim, we'll go to the police station with the victim, we'll go to court with the victim, all of those things. We also provide therapy and face-to-face crisis counseling. We also have education and outreach, which is where we go out into the community and promote our services and educate other people on sexual assault and then also how to utilize us. And then we have an office and hotline number. Our office number is going to be 334-741-0707, and the hotline number is 334-705-0510. So we're going to start off with a few myth or facts, just so you can kind of get the feel for how much you really do know about the... Okay, Faith, we're going to cut that block out. Okay, so first we're going to start off with some myth or facts. So, myth or fact, most sexual assaults occur in public or outdoors. This is a myth. Most sexual assaults occur in the privacy of someone's home or within a building that allows the perpetrator to rape their victim without being interrupted or caught. So, myth or fact, most sexual assaults occur between acquaintances or family members. This is fact. So most sexual assaults occur with someone the victim already knows, whether that be an acquaintance or a close family member, family friends, or one of their friends, because it's easier for the perpetrator to have access to the victim in that way. Myth or fact, serial rapists are common. This is a fact. Most rapists do not only commit one rape. Most rapists are serial rapists and have more than one victim. Okay, myth or fact. If there is not a clear no, it is okay to have sex with someone. This is a big myth. There are plenty of ways to say no without explicitly saying no. So what is DFSA and why is it important to learn about? DFSA is when drugs or alcohol are used to compromise an individual's ability to consent to sexual activity. This is typically done through what is known as date rape drugs, which we will get into more later. So this is very important to learn about because once you learn about it, you can promote an environment of safety and consent on your college campuses. You can understand how to intervene as a bystander, and you can discuss prevention, intervention, and responses to recognizing DFSA if you see it happening or if it's happening to you. So date rape drugs, as I mentioned, are things such as roofies, GHB, also known as liquid X, or ketamine, also known as Special K. All of these things are typically put in drinks. They are odorless, tasteless. They're usually clear. You can't tell that they've been put in there. And they dissolve completely once they're dropped in your drink. It usually only takes 5 to 30 minutes for these drugs to start having effects on you. And the effects are amnesia, blackout, confusion, impaired judgment, muscle relaxation, slowed breathing, slurred speech, and vomiting. So most sexual assaults involve alcohol or drug consumption. As you can tell, over half of them, with 74 to 79%, involve alcohol or drug consumption. And this could be voluntary alcohol or drug consumption. Now, whether or not cut. Okay. 74 to 79% of sexual assaults involve alcohol or drug consumption, and this could be consensual alcohol consumption or drug consumption. However, what is not consensual is when a drug is introduced into the scene without the consent of the person consuming it. DFSA is so dangerous because it diminishes your capacity for consent, confused impairment in judgment, increases your vulnerability, people lose consciousness, interferes with your memory, readily available, readily inexpensive, cut. OMG. DFSA is so dangerous because it diminishes your capacity for consent through impairing your judgment. You are not able to make conscious decisions because you do not have the full understanding of what is going on around you. Increases your vulnerability, and you can lose consciousness. And these two go hand in hand because once you lose consciousness, you lose any ability to consent to anything. It also can mess up your motor skills. You might not be able to speak, move, really anything, which increases your vulnerability as you are unable to fight back in any sort of way. It can interfere with your memory. Many people who have consumed date rape drugs have unexplained periods of time missing from their memory. These drugs are also readily available and relatively inexpensive, which makes them super accessible to those that want them because they really are just so accessible, and you're not paying that much for something that is going to work quickly and will work well. These are also the most socially acceptable because you are already on the party scene. Typically, if you were being drugged, there's already drinking, there's already drugs going on, whether that be at a frat party, a house party, the bar, people have drugs and alcohol on them. So if you have a little baggie in your pocket, it's not necessarily going to stick out to anyone. So always be aware and know the signs of what a possible drugging would look like. This could be pushing someone to drink way more than they would have or want and giving them stronger drinks, such as shots. Sorry, let me restart. Okay, so always be aware and know the signs. This includes pushing someone to drink more than they would want, giving them stronger drinks, and encouraging them to drink when they are already drunk. These three things will increase the likelihood of them losing their sobriety to a further extent, which makes it even harder for them to consent to any sexual activity. Giving someone drugs without their consent is also a big thing. Okay, cut. Giving someone drugs without their consent is also a big sign of DFSA, especially if it's more secretive because you don't know. Okay, fuck. Giving someone drugs without their consent is also a big part of DFSA, as that is the main way the perpetrators gain power over their victims. Targeting someone who is already intoxicated is also a big sign because these people are typically already vulnerable as they already are starting to lose motor function due to alcohol consumption. The bystander effect is when people are less likely to speak up if there are a lot of people around. So big group settings, parties, bars, restaurants. If you see something that looks weird, you might not necessarily tell anyone because you assume someone else is going to tell someone. That's the bystander effect. And it's very important that if you see something, you say something so no one becomes a victim of the bystander effect. So, ways to help a potential victim would be to always pull them aside to ask them questions about if they're comfortable, if they need to go home, if they need help. Try and pull them to the bathroom or up to the bar with you, or call them over and say you need help with something to get them away from their perpetrator. Do not ask questions in front of the perpetrator because this can become a really dangerous situation for you and the potential victim if the perpetrator were to become hostile and aggressive. If you discover they do need help, you can call us, our hotline or office number, and we can point them to the proper resources, and we can also get in contact with police if needed. But if the victim does not want any help, find a way to get them home safely without the perpetrator. Offer to Uber home with them, walk them home, drive them home if you're sober. Just make sure that there is a way for them to get home without the perpetrator following them. So pay attention, intervene if you have any suspicions, and you can always call us for help at 334-705-0510.
How to be a friend when someone discloses a sexual assault or rape. Nonverbal communication, such as nodding, engaging in eye contact with the other person, shifting your body to face them, and leaning toward them, are examples of offering effective and supportive listening without judgment. Refraining from touching the other person unless they give you permission. After a traumatic episode, this type of comfort could be upsetting or unwanted by the other person. Don't ask questions, show outrage, or offer advice. Though you may have the best intentions, any or all of these could come across to the victim as judgment. Some things that you could say can include, "This is not your fault," or "You did nothing wrong," or "Nothing you did caused this to happen to you." Vocalize and reassure to your friend that nobody deserves to be sexually assaulted or raped or abused, no matter what they were wearing or how much they drank or how they were dancing, and even if they were flirting or went to his or her room with them. If they had a previous romantic relationship, or how late they stayed out, or who gave them a ride. Communicating your support can be as simple as saying, "I care about you, I love you, and want to help you in any way that I can," or "I am here for you no matter what you need." Helping the person find and get access to campus resources such as counseling, medical attention, and reporting by using the campus website and or Googling keywords such as health services, health promotion, Title IX, or sexual assault report. RAIN is amazing, and it's a good resource to locate services in your area to get help. Regardless of whether they want to report the assault, they can and should still receive a medical exam by a sane nurse. Encourage your friend to go to the hospital or local rape crisis center, such as Rape Counselors of East Alabama. Here are some things you can say to your friend. "I am worried about your health and safety. I feel like it is important to make sure that you are okay physically. Would you like for me to go with you to see the doctor or ER? Or I don't want anything bad to happen to you. How about we figure out how to get you into the DR to see a doctor, just to make sure you're okay." They do not have to decide right away if they want to talk to the police or press charges against the person who assaulted them. It is important for them to take precautions to preserve any evidence that may have been left behind after the assault, such as telling your friend to not shower, brush their teeth, go to the bathroom, eat, drink, smoke, or comb their hair. If they want to change their clothes, be sure not to wash the clothes and put them in a brown paper bag and bring them in when you go see the sane nurse or doctor. Here are some things you can say to your friend. "I know all you want to do is shower, but perhaps you should wait until we see a doctor. There might be evidence that could be used later if you decide to report." Or, "I know you said that you aren't sure if you want to report, and this is your choice, but I encourage you to consider not showering and bringing the clothes you are wearing with you when you see a doctor. This could help preserve evidence if you decide to report later." Your friend has the right to report what happened to them to the police, but it is only your friend's choice, not yours. If they do decide to report, you can offer to be there with them when they do. Here are some things you can say to your friend. "What happened to you is a crime, and you can report this to the police if you want to. If you want to report what happened, you go to the police. I will be here with you every step of the way." Or you can say, It is up to you if you want to report to the police. Do you want to talk about it? About how you feel about this? If you do nothing else, you can do this. You can believe in your friend. The blame for what happened is on the perpetrator who committed the assault, not the survivor. Some simple things that you can say to your friend is, I believe you and I want to help you. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Or, I have no idea what to say, but I want to help you through this. What can I do? Here's what you don't do, what not to do. Being judgmental by your verbal and nonverbal cues, interrupting and not actively listening to them, victim blaming the survivor by comments like, you should not have worn that, gone to that party, or drink so much alcohol, and etc. Forcing the survivor to do what you want them to do and ignoring their thoughts or wishes, or questioning them, or questioning whatever they say about the assault and rape. Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Faith again, and we are going to be doing the last presentation now on consent. So I want to start off by encouraging you to think about a couple of these, questions. Thinking about, what does consent mean to you? Do you think consent is exclusive to just sexual behaviors? And what would consent look like, does look like, should look like in our everyday life? Now, if we were in person, we would, obviously have a discussion about this, but feel free to comment on the video to discuss, amongst yourselves if you have a group watching this, or, just think about it in your head before we start getting into more of this content. So I think it's important we talk about what consent is and what it's not, right? And this is not an all-extensive list, right? There are so many other things that could fit in this, but these are one of the big ones we wanted to hit on. Consent is enthusiastic. That means that both parties should be very excited about it. It shouldn't be, something that someone's forced to be doing. It should be both are very excited and very much want to do it. It should be ongoing as things happen, as new things are introduced, as, the sexual encounter progresses. It should be an ongoing thing, an ongoing conversation. Consent is also retractable. That means it can be taken away anytime. You can say, yes, I want to do this, and then start doing it and say, no, I'm not into this anymore. You can take it back. It's uncoerced. That means no one is making you feel like you have to say yes. It's I'm saying yes because I want to say yes and because I want to do this. Consent is an agreement. I think it's really important to view sexual experiences in that frame because it's agreeing for both parties to do this thing. Both parties are interested in this thing. And with an agreement, there's usually terms, right? So there's conversations about what that looks like, what it doesn't look like, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. It's informed. If you're lying to someone about who you are, if you're lying to someone about how old you are, what you do, your identity, that's not consensual because that person's not making a decision based on information that's true. It's continuous. Like we said, it's ongoing. It keeps happening. Keep checking in. It's capital Y, yes, yes. Consent is also not these things, right? It's not the absence of no. It's not well, they didn't say no, so it's a yes. It's not, we've done it before, so I figured it was okay now. Someone inviting you back to their home, that is not consent. The only thing you're getting consent for at that point is going back to their home, right? That there's no illusions there. There's no invitations for other things. You've been invited back to their home, so you can go back to their home. That's it. It's not, well, we did X, so I figured Y was okay. It was cool making out, so I figured it was totally fine if, I touched them here. That's not what consent is. It's not getting a yes because you used fear tactics, you intimidated them, you coerced them, or you threatened them. That's not a real yes. If it's not something where they feel like they can say no and they're still saying yes, then it's not a real yes. It's also not a yes under certain conditions, such as an individual being able to consent due to their mental status, how inebriated they are, under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or because of their age, right? There are certain instances in which even if they are saying yes, that's not a yes because that person can't actually say yes. Off of that yes that we talked about, you see this slide, it says yes means yes. There has been kind of an idea in the past of no means no, which yes, no does mean no, but that also implies that the only thing that means no is no, when in reality we should be switching it to a perspective of anything that's not a capital Y yes is a no. A sure, a maybe, and I don't know, those are not yeses just because they're not no's, right? The only thing that should be a yes is a yes. So that's why we want to switch this yes means yes mentality. And I think it's important to talk about that with rape culture, right? Because with rape culture, the idea of no means no is a prevalent thing, right? You have this idea of encouraging individuals, make sure you don't get raped, rather than teaching people not to rape or how to have consensual sexual relationships. It's things along the lines of victim blaming, right? You shouldn't have been wearing this. You shouldn't have been out at this hour. You shouldn't have gone to that party. You shouldn't have drank this much, XYZ. And this is something you see a lot on college campuses, and I think it's really important to talk about it. The, definition of rape culture is a sociological concept for a setting in which rape is pervasive and normalized due to societal attitudes about gender and sexuality. So within rape culture, it's seen as a kind of common thing, right, to accept norms that encourage rape, encourage gender discrimination, and, biases and discrimination based on sexuality. That's kind of what it is, a culture in which things like that thrive. So with this too, I want you to think about these questions. How does rape culture contribute to consent? How does this contribute to our education on consent, right? If we are in a society where we're being taught, don't get raped, do this, do that, and not, don't rape, how is that going to change our education? I think those are important things to note and think about. What we want to do is we want to change the culture of rape to culture of consent, right? We want to talk about ways that we can end rape culture. The first thing is doing things like this. You guys are at a training or watching a training that you didn't necessarily have to go to. Keeping up with educations like that. Making sure that you're just aware. That's a great first step, right? Like aware of what rape culture looks like. A big one that I personally do call out C is making sure that A, I'm not making rape jokes, and B, I'm making sure I'm calling people out who are making them. And sometimes it's very kind of difficult to realize that's almost what it is, right? Because I'm sure that we've all been in a situation where it's like, oh, you just screwed me over. Well, if you really think about it, that's a rape joke, right? That's the insinuation of being raped, being screwed over without consent. And just little language pieces like that, being cognizant of those, calling them out. There are obviously some more obvious examples. A lot of times people playing video games saying, oh, that guy just raped me, because what they actually did was killed them or, stole some of their loot or whatever it was. But being cognizant of that, calling that out. You can educate others on consent, making sure that it's something that you talk about in your sexual encounters with your friends, making comments like, oh, I heard that you did this and this, like, did y'all have a conversation about it? Like, how did that go down? How did you know both parties were interested? Just talking about it. Again, practicing it yourself, everyday life and with partners. This is just outside, too, of sexual consent, right? You can make choices every day that allow for others to have consent, have boundaries. I have friends, they don't like to be hugged. I'm one of those people. My friends know to ask me if they can hug me, and if I don't want to hug, respecting that, right? So just being able to communicate and those sorts of things and not get your feelings hurt. My friends don't get their feelings hurt because they don't take it personally that I don't want to hug. This can be really difficult, too, when you get in long-term sexual relationships, right? Because you have feelings involved and you don't want it to be something where it's like, well, if I say no, I'm going to, hurt them or make them think I'm not attracted to them. And both trying to create a relationship in which those things can be open and it can be understood. Just because, I'm not interested in doing this doesn't mean that I'm not interested in you. and respecting that consent, not adding in guilt to the equation, all of those things. It's really important to know resources in your community, right? So you can help a friend if they've been assaulted. Also, we talked about this, don't be a bystander. If something's going on, step in, do something, right? Because that shows other people, oh, it's okay to do something. It's okay to stop these things. Just little things like that you may not, be thinking of can help in rape culture and start to promote a culture of consent, making sure things are okay before you do them. I have some final discussion points here. Again, discuss amongst yourselves, discuss in your own head. Think about it, what stops people from verbally giving and requesting consent? What are some things you can say to indicate consent? Are you now going to actively practice consent? And then I do have just like this reminder below, you should be practicing consent in healthy sexual relationships to check in on your partner and make sure that what you are doing is enjoyable and okay. It may take a little practice to feel less awkward, but make it a part of the routine of any sexual encounter. And I think that that's a really important reminder, right? If you are in a healthy sexual relationship, it should be important that your partner is interested in what you're doing. You should both be able to communicate, talk to each other, and determine, what works, what doesn't work, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. And I think that even makes, the sexual encounters better, is incorporating consent. And it can be a little bit awkward at first, right? We're not entirely taught to communicate growing up super well in schools and stuff. That's not part of the education process usually. So I think it is really important to embrace the awkwardness and say, okay, this might be a little bit weird until I get used to it, but let's talk about it, right? Because you'd rather talk about it and figure out what each other's comfortable with than, the alternative. I like this graphic because I think this is just super important. Consent, it starts with a conversation, and that's true. Starting with a conversation about it, talking to people, that's what starts it out. Make it less awkward by bringing it up, and then kind of go from there, So thank you guys for listening to this Know Before You Go presentation. We really appreciate all of the viewership, for you tuning in. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to the information we have below, the emails in the first slide. We have our emails below. We have our phone number below. We have our website, however you feel most comfortable. But thank you so much for listening, and we will hopefully see you on the next video. Bye.